people had already been busted and like gotten some serious like charges and time. Like I felt like all my street rider friends were like they're kind of on some like don't touch those things because it's a career ender, kind of. But but I was like, I just started looking and I started reading these, finding any old interviews I could get out of like old graffiti. Like there was a website and like it was old. It was from like the 90s. It had all the like weird animated like letters that were like going up and down the screen and stuff. And I looked on there and it was like they must have just sent emails to people because the questions were the same, like what year did you start writing, and then it turned into what was your favorite spot to paint. And these were all subway riders, so I just wrote them all down. And then I went and one night I was like, I'm just gonna go check. I went to Utica on the 4 line, and that was my local layup. Like that's where I lived by. And I went walking down, jumped onto the tracks, walked down, and I'm seeing like I'd never been in there like that, like in one like that really. And I'm walking around, I see the little like staircase, and I don't see no. I'm like, there's no way there's any trains in here. I didn't see nothing, but I was on the wrong. Jumped off the platform on the 3 line. You got to go down to the 4, and so I'm walking, and I see one of these little staircases with the yellow trim, and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna jump in there and see these tags. I see like all these like Smith tags, like Ghost, Comet, Blade, and I'm like, damn, I'm looking at all these tags and I'm thinking this isn't the place, but at least I'm seeing these tags. And then I go down the stairs and I pop out and what do I see? But like I hear the hum of like a train engine idling, and I see the windows and the silver, and I'm like, it just took the breath out of me. I was like, I couldn't believe it, and I was like, I'd been waiting so long for that moment. And I had already done a couple subways in New York, but it was back when someone showed me how to do it. They took me to like a end station layup type thing, and we're like, all right, you got it's spastic real quick because they're telling me you only got like whatever 6 or 7 minutes. So I'm spastic. This time I was like, I'm about to spend my time with this train, and whatever happens happens. I, at that time you're thinking the Vandal Squad's gonna pop out of midair and jump on you. Like you realize that's how I felt. Like once you apply that paint, like they're gonna start parachuting out of the sky. That was kind of the vibe. So I'm I'm just taking my time and I did just like I'll never forget that piece. It was just a real simple like and I used a word that was like real similar to my tag, like, and it looked like my graph but it said a different name. And like I liked that name. I felt like it like it was just like an important name to me. It was like a word that was like had some depth to it. I liked that name. Like cry to me was like it was just appropriate, and like I could see gray in it. And and I did that piece, and then I took photos. But then the next day, like I'm looking on Instagram, and like really there wasn't a whole lot of trains getting, like it wasn't common. But all of a sudden someone catches this thing on like 192nd Street or something. So that thing went through the system, like, and from then on I was like, yo, there's something. This is the fact that it's like people saw it and someone got a photo and it reached me back and it's running. It's got it's in a station on a platform that had value to me. That had like a lot of value. Like that that got me that got me active. you know it made me realize that this would be this mattered to me. This was something that name, that word, and that experience was so dear to me that I was going to continue this. And I kept going. I kept doing a lot of panels, and it was all by myself. Mainly because I didn't want to bring. I had just heard so many horror stories, and I had no one to like guide me, that I didn't want to offer any kind of like telling someone else to go do it. Cause like if this shit like fuck someone's whole life up, like so I went by myself, and I would meditate with those pieces. Like I just would take my time, and like I just felt like the experience was so important to me that like I wasn't gonna rush or like I just wanted to be with the piece for a minute, and like take my photo and just enjoy my time. Even if each one was the only one I ever did again, that was fine. I'm not gonna scaredly rush through something real quick and run off. Like I wanted to like absorb these experiences, because it was like the that was so like we talked earlier about how like what has kept you going, like so all that before what I said, like now at this point it was each one of those pieces was like, if each one of those pieces on the New York subway was the last thing I ever did, I was fine. That was fine with me. Like, and I was going to experience it. I mean, I'm talking about like every spot I did too. Like I wasn't up against a wall. I wouldn't paint where there's pillars. If I painted a spot, and I had a lot of them to myself, I was going to be able to stand back, look at the piece, take good photos with a flash, but still, and experience the piece, because I wasn't seeing any subway graphs. So like it was just, yeah. So nothing mattered besides, to me, that might as well have been church at the time for me. That was me absorbing like this all encompassing like experience. And um I kept doing it, and no regrets at all for that. Like
What came of that with law enforcement?
so as I continued that, so apparently like my time frame is a little bit weird, but like it's, it's kind of blurry. I wasn't like mile marking each thing. I wasn't dating the thing. But apparently it was a 2 year like process. Um Estimated about 52, the charges reflected 52 large graffiti incidents on the New York subway. Um Large graffiti just means like a throw up or a piece or a whole car, something besides a tag. Um I don't know. Some of those might have been I was with someone, because I did eventually connect with two people that I would go with. Um, and so some of those might have been there was two panels, and then they threw that into my roster. I don't know. I would have to go back and look. Um, I wasn't counting, but I believe it to be somewhat around between 30 and 50 like solid panel pieces, and a handful of whole cars as well. Um, so I went painting with some people, and they had been active with like, they were more in the scene. I was kind of like, I had my street career, I had my European stuff, I had San Francisco, New York streets, but as far as New York subways, I was doing my own investigating and my own reconnaissance and going on my own, and like I was very isolated. I didn't know anyone. I don't even think someone could have told on me if they wanted to, because I wasn't communicating. But the guys I went with, they had been a little more in the scene of the transit graffiti scene, and that led to some people I associated with getting investigated, and ended up the Vandal Squad apparently is, looking through the window with binoculars for 2 weeks, digging through garbage looking for sketches. I didn't draw graffiti, especially cry graffiti. Didn't make stickers. I just would do the graph when it was all, I wouldn't plan it out. I would just do it and stuff. And so I didn't have a lot of evidence, but they came and raided one of my associates' houses, and they ended up finding some in there, and I kind of and you know what, the dude held it down, like straight up, like he ended up having to do a little bit of prison for the, not even just a little, what some would consider a lot, for that. But in ways I feel guilty, because I feel like, because he had the I feel, and you know what, the dude, what, he lived in a different state that allowed you to purchase these things. He moved to New York in that moving truck. There was some and he wasn't, there was nothing to it besides that. But state laws are state laws. So I think during that investigation, and you know what, whether it was sloppiness or people telling, there was definitely like a culprit to like the reason that I and my associates ended up getting investigated. I can't say, because unfortunately in becoming a confidential informant doesn't require that you necessarily go on paper and testify. You can just say so and so did this, or this guy, you can just say hearsay, and they can use it. And so that's what happened. So my two associates, the two people I was pretty fairly active with, ended up getting raided within a few weeks apart. They were actually residing in the same place, and I had been in and out of that place a lot, so I knew they were coming. When they did arrive, there was nothing of any sort of crucial evidence in my house. But I went out to get coffee, and these guys were, I hear my name and I look, and here comes 6 or 7 guys in plain clothes, with the little ball chain around their neck. It's not really a good situation when they're not in uniform. Like, that's kind of like I knew that this was a process that I knew it was coming, but still it sucked. So, they had taken me in, and the lieutenant, or whatever, I don't know what his position was, but the head of the Vandal Squad, which was Nino Navarro at the time, he had a book, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to show you this book. I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff, and you're going to tell me what you're responsible for. And at the time, I'm just like, I already knew I wasn't going to say nothing at all. I wasn't not going to, I regret not seeing that book, because I bet there was some really good stuff in it, and good photos that I had never seen of my own stuff. But I wasn't even going to look in that book and have my expression change, And I told him, don't even open that book, because I need a lawyer. I'm not going to tell you. I don't have anything to say to you. And they took me to jail. You know, he's saying, "Oh, if you tell us this and that, you'll be out of here in 5 minutes. Just tell us what you did." And it's funny because they use wording in such a way that I would have been out of there in 5 minutes, and I was out of there in 5 minutes, but I was out of there en route to the police station. I wasn't going back in my house in 5 minutes, and no matter what I said was not going to make that happen. But if, people, they had been surviving for years off telling street writers, like, all you got to do is confess to this and you'll go home right now, or whatever. They were actually mad on the way there. They're like, they had to transport me. And I hear the two guys talking. The head of the vandal squad stayed there to search my house, to keep ransacking my house. And the other guys are like, man, he's like, well, I don't see why people don't talk anymore, man. Like, that I lawyered up. These guys were like, they were talking amongst themselves. They had given up on me. Like, there was no like discussion between me and them, but they were talking amongst each other, like kind of venting about the fact that people don't tell anymore. That shit was crazy to me, Yeah. But it's telling on yourself. Like, they never I don't know about, I had heard street stories of, the street. There's two vandal squads too. There's like what they call graffiti, and then there's like the transit. The graffiti vandal squad, they sit in front of scrapyard. They were talking about that too, right in front of me. That they're like, thank God we're not in graffiti no more. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, and this wasn't even those two. This was like some guys that came in when I was in holding in the vandal squad transit little holding cell, which, like, I'm not gonna lie, man, like, that experience, even that part of it wasn't like, it was still like kind of, it meant something to me. Like, it sucked, and I didn't want to be there, but like, for what it's worth, like, it entered my mind of like, damn, I wonder what like subway legends have been sitting right here. And it was old. It was bars still. It wasn't glass. It was like, there's bars, and I'm watching these guys processing my evidence through the bars, and they're like, they went out and celebrated by a pizza party, that they got me and stuff, and like, they didn't hate me either. Like, as much as I wanted it to be like a fuck those guys, like, fuck you, and you hear stories of like people like spitting on the vandal squad and them beating you up and all that. I feel like they knew I was like, I had been around. I wasn't a kid. They knew I had a whole nother career doing graph. They knew I had been. They were kind of like, and this was already, I was like already Mirandized, and I wasn't going to talk, and but they were kind of like being like, oh yeah, he's like, they didn't hate me. Like, the only thing they did that kind of, I guess was a little misleading, was the fact that like, I was like, I pulled the dude aside, and I was like, yo, just, when they released me from the vandal squad to the tombs, to Manhattan. And I was like, you're not going to put me on like, we don't got to go to the paper and the news and stuff, right? And he's like, nah, you're good. I said, I'm a nobody, And he they put me in the news,